Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Climb. I'm John Sarakis, and today is Free Talk Friday. But before we get into that, this is the podcast where we talk to digital agencies, marketers, technologists, and if you want to grow your agency, get tips, tricks, tools, have some mentorship, be a mentor, have a peer that you can collaborate with, where you have bi-weekly meetings, one of the gnarliest yearly meetings with drinks, some of the best food and great speakers, go ahead and visit us at digitalmastermind.com or shoot me an email, johnjon@digitalmastermind.com, and let's have a conversation. Remember, today, as always, this is live and it's a conversation. So we welcome interaction. So feel free to chime in any way, in any form you feel fit. But my next part is bringing out my good friend and co-host, David McGraw. Dave, why don't you come out here, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
And we need to acknowledge today is it's kind of a holy day to some extent if you're an American, and today is September 11th.
19 years ago. Pretty crazy. It's one of those days that you instantly know where you were, what you were doing when that happened.
Where were you doing? Where were you?
I was in my job in Coudersport, Pennsylvania, middle of nowhere at a company called Adelphia. And we were in, it was a pretty significant data center on the East Coast. It ran all of their operations. And there was a lot of people that was nervous that they would be a target. I thought it was a little ridiculous. But yeah, I remember I was in a giant call center. And, as news started trickling out of what was going on, everybody started, just a lot of gasps and yeah, it was crazy. I definitely remember that the moment those towers came down. Where were you at?
I was on a construction site listening to the radio, and it was Bubba the Love Sponge was reporting this. Do you know Bubba Love Sponge?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So he was reporting, and I got my hats off to him. He was doing a great job of giving a play-by-play, and yeah, it was just emblazoned. It was weird too having it radio, right? Theater of the mind. So it was just myself and another guy. We were doing Punch Out on this house that was going to be complete. I think at that time, what was I? I was like 18, and I remember going later on to a friend's house that evening and just seeing all of like the video and what it was on TV and putting all that together. And yeah, I mean, it was heartbreaking. And of course, friends at that age, people were instantly just signing up for the military and service and whatnot. So yeah, just a tragic day in our history.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. My mom called me. So we're in this data center, and you couldn't even get on CNN. We couldn't get any information, and that's that was the weird thing is everybody was freaking out, and you could the news websites weren't loading because there was just so many people trying to find information. And so we were definitely far behind in the being updated on what was going on. A lot of people still thought it was, an accident, not an attack. So it was crazy. It was, so 19 years ago, that's pretty nuts.
When that first one happened. Yeah. And it was crazy too. Also, how many people were way more educated on Middle East relations than I was. I mean, again, I was only 18, but I remember this guy, I think it was like a superintendent or something. Some supervisor came to the job site, and he was like, just spouting all of this stuff out related to like Osama bin Laden. He already knew instantly, that guy was potentially a candidate, as well as all these people. I think there was somebody even assassinated the day before, and he thought that was related. It was just one of those instances. It's just like, wow, man, the world is a really big place, and there's a lot of shit that I don't even know and didn't even ever pay attention to. Because how much stuff at that time you're like, it's happening in the Middle East. It would just go by. You really didn't give a shit.
Dude, I was fresh out of college. I was not I was not looking at Middle East politics or was aware of it or that entered my anything. I mean, that 9/11 was the first moment where I was like, whoa, there's terrorists trying to get Americans. Like, you heard about it in Israel in
93, where they bombed the World Trade Center the first time.
Yeah, I mean, in 93, I was 14. I was playing baseball. I didn't even watch the news. So Yeah, just crazy. It's good to change the country. But I mean, you know, for the first 10 years, I'd say it changed the country. And I'd say it really doesn't factor in as much as I would say as it used to.
What do you mean by it doesn't factor in as much? Like it doesn't mean as
Well,
much? Like
yeah.
on the day to day? Yeah, like the meaning is kind of waned.
Yep.
That's a good point. I haven't talked to somebody. I mean, I don't have kids, so I haven't talked to somebody that is younger and say like, yeah, what does this mean to you? Like I've never had that conversation. That'd be interesting to have a kid's perspective. Is this because a lot of people would say this is our Pearl Harbor or this is that type of level of event, and there will be things where there's going to be a bunch of young punks that just don't give a shit defacing it in the future and not adding the same meaning that we have, because to some extent we were there with media holding hands watching all this stuff happen.
Dude, we're about to have people applying to work at Oyova that were born after 9/11.
Yeah.
Put that into perspective.
Yeah, that is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Feel old, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Getting old.
Yeah. Day was going better.
Yeah.
And then we got to transition from this because granted, that is a thing that may be.
Pay it a little honor and let's get back into
a little honor. It's an acknowledgement, hats off. You know what? This is a good conversation. Maybe you're not privy for this show, but have you ever talked to a firefighter that was around or a first responder in 9/11 and what happened, to their life after that in New York?
No.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. I recommend that. I've spoke with some, and it was, let's just say it was kind of like a party atmosphere based on, all the attention that they were given, almost like that celebrity type of status. And it wasn't something that they were prepared for.
I mean, out of that came Firehouse Subs here in Jacksonville, which is now all over the Southeast. And the firemen became a hero.
That was that was a 9/11 thing. That's how they created it.
No, not necessarily, but out of that, the firefighter really reintroduced as a hero.
Huh.
And so these guys are firefighters. I mean, but I don't think they actually were in 9/11 or anything, but I'm just saying out of that, momentum of all things, firefighters, I don't know. Maybe I'm completely off.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking, what a terrible way to honor 9/11 is by creating some suck-ass subs.
Really? Those are the best subs.
They're terrible. They're terrible subs.
What do you think is better?
Publix. Publix has one of the best subs.
One of the best subs. The other three are at Firehouse.
Well, no, I mean subs in general. Like they have multiple subs, but it's one of the best sub places.
Yeah, they're all right. They have.
Can't beat a pub sub.
Yeah, they're good. They're super solid. But the hook and ladder is ridiculously good.
There's one called the something steamer, right?
Yeah.
And I got it. And biting into that thing, the meat was frozen in the center. It was like blazing hot on the outside. The meat was frozen in the center. I was like, maybe it's just like a one and done type of deal. There used to be one over at USF, where I went to school. And then I was like, all right, so let me try another one. No, it was the same thing. It was just like, just like hot, Italian ice cream. It was just horrible. Yeah. Maybe they didn't have the best experience. I don't eat cheese anymore, so I think that the steamer is off the list anyway.
Right.
And I don't know if I'm going to get a sub and go through what all the bread and whatnot. It's going to be It's going to be Publix.
If I had the capability, I would have signed up for a Firehouse sub franchise in my old college town of Morgantown, West Virginia, and I would just have put Firehouse subs everywhere. I mean, that's how good I think they are. And look, watching their growth, the rest of America feels the same way.
I don't even know if we have one. I don't know if we have one in St. Pete. Yeah, I think the sentiment might be real down here, a higher standard.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just a Southeast thing. And in Tampa, you're not in the Southeast anymore. You're more like Brooklyn or Staten Island. You're a borough of New York there in St. Pete.
All right, we'll take it as a compliment. All right, so we've had some pretty good goings on. I mean, we're growing our sales team, so I think that might be interesting to our audience. And in doing it, we've made two hires during COVID. So this is a big deal. We got a new guy who I'm really excited to announce starting on Monday. So we'll announce him next week. I think it's only fair once he's already in place, so we can get all the fanfare. And we have another gentleman, Richard, who's a seasoned salesman who's been around technology and now marketing for 30 something odd years. So really excited to have those on. I also think it's a testament too that we've talked about on this show, where if everybody is pulling back, then it's time to put your foot on the gas and then move forward. And this is a testament to that. We're eating our own dog food, drinking our own champagne.
It's always just go against the flow. I mean, I've mentioned this before, but you're not going to get extraordinary results by doing the ordinary, right? So if everyone else is going north, go south. If everyone's going south, go north. Go against the grain and carve out extraordinary results. And so if people are pulling back, then we got to go get and in PPP loans were issued to hire people and to pump up the economy. And that's what we're doing. So we're going to use those to try to grow and hire more people. So if we're successful with hiring these 2 salespeople and grow demand, well, then we're going to hire more. And we just put out a job posting for an SEO marketing person. So, that's what the intended goal for, the stimulus package was for. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's doubling down on being aggressive in the best sense, so even speaking with some other agencies, they've, became pretty conservative, and I'm interested to see what that looks like in January of 2021, because I think it's going to get combative internally at those types of companies because of just that fear type, right? So we've spoken about the abundancy mindset versus the scarcity mindset,
right?
And this is definitely you and I both share an abundance, a mindset that's abundance. So if you keep like an equalizer, right? This is what I tell you, like with music, if you push them all up right at the same time, and you can try to tweak them all later, I think that's the best approach rather than turning the volume all the way down. And that's what we're doing here, and I'm excited to see it happen. And it's not, how would you put it, removing anything else that's moving forward. It's literally just stepping on the gas. I was speaking with a kid the other day about college, and he said, "Oh, well, colleges are now allowing you to have worse transcripts when you go in because of COVID." I was like, "Does that make you feel better?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, that's fucking bullshit. You're literally now looking for reasons and excuses of why you can be shittier at what you do. And I think a lot of business owners are going to use that. Like, oh, we're going to use COVID as an excuse. Like, that is such shitty thinking. Like, just know that you have to work twice as hard now. And you will get, 4 to 10 times the results if you execute that way. And if not, cool. You get to, keep the same lifestyle that you currently have.
I don't want anything to do with race to the bottom, right? Even in talking about pricing our services, there's tons of companies out there that are engaging in the race to the bottom and the race to a commodity. You want to play that game, you go for it. And I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want you as a client. I want to go quality, and I want luxury. I want our service to be a luxurious experience. And so if you're talking about college and they're lowering their standard to accept everything, but that goes to my belief in college anyways. The idea of college is becoming irrelevant. I mean,
I agree.
Every bit of knowledge that is inside that university, which used to be the only place to get that knowledge, is now freely available online for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And there's also substantially less expensive alternatives for just the way that information is collected and presented that you can obtain. You don't have to go there based on their curriculum.
If you're smart enough to be able to find the information, ingest it and process it and grow from it, why do you need a professor? So if our high schools were doing the best job they could, it would be to prepare kids to self-learn using the internet, because honestly, when we hire new employees, the first thing we're saying is like, don't ask the same question twice. Like, be able to learn and grow and find out where you can find the information. Google it. Don't make me Google it for you. That's one of the first signs of we got a sharp a hungry person is that they don't need to be told where to go find the information. I don't care if you don't know it right now. Figure out how to go find it.
Yeah,
So,
and I don't think it takes anything away from training. That's also just a personality type, which can be coached and conditioned. Because I've had people. So, for instance, and you might speak to this. When I first started any company I ever worked for, there was no like training. I didn't get any of that. I was thrown to the wolves, right?
right.
Which I think also creates entrepreneurship to some extent, because you're
Right.
like, if I had to figure out all this shit, I could be fine. But
Right.
I think there's a certain quality and a certain behavior pattern that that creates, right? So too much training, I believe, creates like a task management, mindless kind of McDonald's model, which you might get the same tasty double cheeseburger with no pickle, no onion every single time. But at the end of the day, what does that do to propel somebody forward? And also, how do you really tell who shines? I mean, you're like, that's got to be pretty difficult. It's like, you didn't fuck the burger up. I mean, or is it like, oh, hey, look what's happening over here. Maybe you go to this other burger joint where somebody is consecutively doing it time and time again, just based on, a simple, list. All right, this is how it's done. I think at that point, it's easier to see who should, excel.
It just depends on if you're in the corporate model or the private model, because the corporate model says that if you're good at your job, then you're going to be there forever, because they don't want to have to worry about replacing somebody that does that job so well, right? Corporate model hires from outside because they don't want to have to fill other spots. I mean, the corporate model says, I want repeatability and systems to maximize profit. The private model is, hey, I want to grow your career. I'm invested in you as a person. I want to see you grow. I want to give you more challenges. I mean, I'm sure there's corporations out there with correct cultures and all that stuff. But for the vast majority of big companies that I've worked for, it's not anything like that. And then in the private world, it's, it's far more rewarding, I guess, for me. I mean, and it's my, for my personality type, I much rather be invested in the people that work for me and the people that I work for. I mean, same with the clients. Like I want to see them succeed, and I'm invested in them. And
that's an interesting question, though. That so what you're saying is essentially corporate-minded companies versus person-centric companies, right? Is that how you would? Those are the two buckets that you would say?
I would, because a corporate model would say, "Ooh, if you have a repeatable process that just churns out the same burger every single time," they would think that's a giant success. And then the person-centric would be like, "How do you want that hamburger cooked? Do you want jalapenos on it? Like, let me customize it
at that point, right?"
Yeah.
Okay. Which is like, Burger King, your way, right away, which actually I've learned is not entirely true. They kind of go into that, what do you call it? Engine. What is your favorite subjoint called? What is that? I can't even remember it.
Firehouse?
Firehouse. Yeah. They go to the Firehouse bucket for me, places I don't go. But, but in any event,
I love Whoppers, though. Whopper is the best fast food burger.
You think so? Whopper is the best fast food burger? I would say, what the hell is that place called? They're from like Wisconsin. It starts with a C. No, it's like Culver's. Culver's is the best fast food burger.
Never been there.
You know the test of a best fast food burger? No cheese.
I don't typically like cheese on my burger anyways.
Oh, really? Oh, dude, I'd kill for it, but I can't have it. Anyway, but all right, I digress. So I wonder, though, because most small companies seem to have that atmosphere of everybody's in the same tribe, right? And and at what point, maybe it's like Seth Godin says, after 150 things kind of fall apart to some extent. Is that the number? Because what I'd like to see is if you have issues with like a bad culture, right? They're not going to want to hire people that are smarter than the people they're going to work for, which is a continual issue, right? But why do a lot of corporations use college as a litmus of whether they're going to hire? And I think that's just like, if they're willing to go through that, right? That is potentially somebody that we would want to hire, regardless of what the degree is. And a lot of places are removing that, but that's for the last 20 years, that's been you have to go to college, and all the big companies are not going to hire you because they don't believe you're qualified to do what they want done.
So the school system trains you to be a good worker.
You think so?
Yes, it's to train you to be a good worker. Now, Elon Musk, I just saw a quote of his or a meme that somebody put together. I didn't verify it, so I didn't fact check it. But he said, don't confuse intelligence with education. And he goes, people that graduate from Harvard work for me. And he didn't go to Ivy League and all that stuff. So that's exactly encapsulates exactly what I'm talking about.
Talk about shitting on your culture. You got a bunch of people that went to Harvard where you're like, man, fuck that guy.
Why? He's obviously, amazing. I would love to work for Elon Musk.
Would you really?
I would give up owning my own business if I could go run a division in SpaceX or Space Force. Like the people that are pioneering space travel right now are going to go down in history as
Yeah, they will, but I mean that's all legacy. I think there's more stuff. I don't know, space versus the ocean. I mean that's a whole nother thing. I think we don't spend enough exploring our current planet and taking care of it. So it always kind of bothers me when we dump a bunch of money into space exploration. But I don't know, maybe that's an idealist thought. I do want to jump back though to where we were talking about with education. So I think there's a complete disconnect, and I don't think education makes good workers at all. I think that it's a completely broken system. I think education essentially has no connection with what businesses actually want.
Well, there's that as well, but they are training you in terms of behavior to take direction from authority, and you get 18 years, or depending on how long you stay in school, but you get indoctrinated of, do this, and it's the people that get into college and they say, screw this, I'm out, like an Elon Musk or like myself, that can break away from that, and they are born entrepreneurs, yourself included. Like, you don't have a long secondary education history. So I mean, I think education creates good workers.
Yeah, I always just looked at the disconnect, and I guess if you can tolerate it and you can go through it and whatnot. What I find super crazy though is when you find somebody that is like working on their MBA or their masters, and they think that is the gateway to more income.
Correct. Well, because they're trained that, they were told that, they're following what authority tells them.
It's safe. But
for the simple point that in high school, nobody talks to high school kids about all of the crazy amount of careers that they can have that doesn't require a 4-year education. A real estate agent. You can make crazy bank being a real estate agent. Plumber.
Technology kills it though, boy. Technology is on the heels of just killing that industry.
I don't know.
Commissions keep going down. I mean, granted, but I think
still need a physical person to let you get in the house. Technology is not going to let people in in an abandoned house.
They're not, but commissions, I mean, it exists. I don't want to disagree with that, but I think any of those, even attorneys for the most part, I mean, the technology is doing whatever it can to kill those positions. So it's
I feel we're on the pendulum swing of back to people connections. So I think we've gone the super tech route, and sure, there's some people that are still driving towards that, but I think people are craving human connection.
And that's why I understand why people don't invest in that, right? Emotional intelligence. It's that your ability to connect with others, and you're only as good as the people you can work with. I think it was Roosevelt or somebody said that.
Kind of brings us full circle of saying we just hired 2 new salespeople. Like, our strategy is shaking hands face to face. That's how we're going to get the sale in 2021, because buying lists and auto spamming and auto soliciting and all that stuff, like, I just don't think that's the path forward for 2021. I think people are over that.
It could be a piece of that, but all right, I'm happy you brought that up, because we were talking about the sales strategy of one of the new hires today, where people just think like, I'm gonna pray or spray and pray, right, based on this giant list. And a lot of the older methods, and even on the inbound side, we're only gonna try to attract what we have. I believe it's no, you find a selected list, and you could say this is account-based marketing to some extent. But I mean, at the end of the day, focus on like 15 instead of 150, like highly probable prospects. And you can get 1 or 2 of those, and it's more than likely you're going to spend as much time as you would going in money over, that 150.
So we got our first question from the live audience. We see we've got a bunch of people watching us right now. So
there you go.
I
Love it. What do we got?
Make sure you kick it in. We'd love to talk about it. So Brandon says, do you think businesses have gotten lazy about how they treat customers because COVID is now an excuse?
It's an interesting question. I think it depends on the business for sure. I know some are persnickety. I mean, I was bragging about public subs, but I know at the height of it, they were kind of shitheads, man. Some of the things that they were doing, based on, I think I told the story on the show with the bagger when I was in line, when I went to go pay, and the guy literally said, "Excuse me, sir, I need you to back up for my safety." I was like, "Oh, wow, this is just
my bad, Karen."
Real, yeah. Speaking of which, I have an anecdote about Karen when we get a chance. Yeah, keep going.
But one thing that I will notice about, to answer, Brandon's question is, like, I went to Publix. They're no longer handing out the free sample of, when you get lunch meats or cheese or something like that. They used to always give you a sample and say, is this good? And they're not doing that anymore for COVID. So I do see businesses taking advantage of COVID and changing their processes. And I can see through it and see this is money motivated. It's profit motivated, not your safety motivated.
So golf courses, so about every third hole on, a decent golf course, they have water, right? So there's, they have like a water cooler or something that you can pour water from. They removed all those.
Yeah.
Some of those still are not. Absolutely. They're selling water bottles for $2.50, $3 each.
Right.
And it's like, wow. All right, cool. If you're out in the hot Florida, sun, it's 91 degrees outside. You're going to suck down a lot of water if you didn't bring your own water. And man, I've seen what some other guys are spending. It's insane, man. They'll go through 10 water bottles. They just dropped like $30 on water.
Right. We got a nice, awesome comment from Aaron here. Preach, David. I like that.
It said Jon would be awesome, but yeah.
All right. So how are you guys going to do networking and sales strategy while people are still scared? That's a good question. So you're working with the sales team and got Richard. So what is the plan there?
So I think scared is the subjective question, right? So if they are scared, I think that's potentially not going to be a good fit at this time. But the people that aren't, that are willing to meet in person, there are actually network events in the area, and some of them going on. But of course, you still have some of the network events that are related to just video for the people that are scared. But the way that we look at it is, anybody that is willing to meet, sit down, and do face-to-faces, those are targets that we have right now. And of course, if they would just like to do anything related to video, we would do that. But you'd be surprised at how many businesses are having their staff go back to work and how many people are getting in-person meetings.
And Richard, over there in Tampa and St. Pete, I mean, the chamber events are happening.
Yeah, chamber events are happening. Yeah.
Business openings are happening, and those are networking events. And so we're trying to get a real face at real events so that people are aware. And if we can seed people's minds today, and in 6 months when everything's back to normal, now the conversation is, oh yeah, I know Oyova.
And boom, that's only a part of it. There's business right now. Like, it's not even the seed part. 6. Like, literally, we're pulling in leads right now. So I think that's where I said it's super subjective. And it's
a risk. We don't know this is going to work. We're hoping it's going to work. This was the like, all right, how do we, I've been talking about it lately. Like, the year 2020 is the climb. Mm-hmm. Next year we've got to come up with a new mantra, and I
climb harder.
What is it? Climb harder. I'm thinking something like cannon shot or rocket fuel or something like that. And then this is our ability to just, grow beyond our wildest dreams in 2021. And then if it doesn't work, then, 2022's mantra might be just save whatever you can.
No, I don't think that'll be the case. I mean, the way that I look at it is, we got PPP money, and then we got PPP money, but at the same time, we're driving a fuel efficient car, right? So if everybody's executing in the way that they're supposed to be executing, then things should work out the way that they should. So,
of course, and it's the result of good decision, good investment. We're investing in ourselves.
Yep. And
we're hoping that it's going to, pay dividends down the road.
Yeah, but we're also taking actions, right? So these are things that if let's say we take the industry, right? So if everybody's not investing in their sales right now, or there's only like 5% that are investing in their sales and their outbound marketing, I would put my money on that being the propeller and the flip forward for those agencies to double over most of the others in their same revenue space. It just makes sense. Like that, we're talking about craps, right? If you're going to bet more than everybody else, you're all making the same moves to some extent. Well, the one that's betting more is going to make more money. And if you're making better moves, all right, well, that's even going to net you more, in theory. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, but you lose more too. I mean, it's got to look at the other side.
Yeah.
I also like our strategy. So many people, when they want to grow and they want to expand and they add a new salesperson and they put them in New York City or they put them in San Francisco or Los Angeles. Probably, they're just going for that sexy, that sounds great. Well, our new sales guys, Kansas City. Like I want that Midwest, that blue collar, that essential. That's the positioning we're going at. We want to work with essential companies that COVID can't stop. And so that's, I like our strategy. Midwest.
And if San Francisco presents itself, if there's an agency on it right now, like, hey, you want to get out of what you're doing, you want to potentially, sell with us, I would love to have that conversation. Or New York. I think it depends if it makes sense. I like, we share the Midwest. This is because we have an all American staff. We do not outsource to a foreign company. So we're betting on that. All right, there's people are going to embrace that value that we have, that all right, everything that we have is made in America for the most part.
Yeah, especially in today's political climate. I mean, and then the whole just the whole there's I think a wave of thinking of people that really are starting revaluing made in America. There's definitely plenty of people that don't care. I, for one, going through the COVID world of 2020, have rededicated myself to shopping local to the ultimate, part. I mean, I'm paying extra for dog food. I'm paying extra for refrigerator. I want, everything I'm buying right now is local. Only if I can't find it locally do I go online. But we're looking at getting not presents. I guess let's call them rewards for employees this year. And and looking at it at first, I was just looking online at your typical places like 4imprint and stuff like that. And then you reminded me, like, hey, let's make sure these are made in America. And I was like, God, damn right, these are imported. Why do I want to do that? I want to support.
Oh, dude, you found one that just was disgusting to me. It literally says "Made in the USA" on the bag, and you're like, look at the last bullet, and the last bullet said "imported." I was like, wow.
So the bag wasn't made in America. It was just advertising made in America. It was sick. It's sickening. You shouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah.
But
that'd be a weird law.
I mean, that was Cafe Press, I think. And that was just
Cafe Press.
Those sites that are just burn and churn promo material. So I even, the company I found is in North Carolina. They produce the leather there.
Etsy, right?
What's that?
Found it on Etsy.
Yeah, and I think Etsy is I've never really been an Etsy person before, but I mean, what a treasure trove of local artisans in the U.S. That's who we should be spending our money with.
Yeah,
keep it in the local communities. I don't want to build Silicon Valley's infrastructure. I want to build the infrastructure for Jacksonville Beach because my daughter lives here,
or North Carolina,
or but still, it's better than Silicon Valley.
I think the main thing is it's as long as it's in, like, we looked at numerous backpack and satchel and whatnot. Oh shit!
Nobody watches this anyways.
Yeah. In any event, we looked at numerous American made companies, and we just have to edit that thing out. At the publish, just be a quick boop. But numerous companies, and man, they are expensive, right? But
you got to pay for it.
Yeah, the idea is, all right, you get something that's going to last, it's going to have a warranty. And at the same time, there's, you're supporting a job that could be, somebody that's, a brother or sister or a friend, down the street from.
Think about this, though. So since probably I don't have numbers and stats to, specifics, but I get a general feeling from 2000 to now, haven't we as a society pretty much been conditioned to just throw it away, replace it?
Yeah.
We don't fix anything anymore.
Totally.
And that's the difference. When you buy a, let's say, $400 widget from an American company that's quality,
$400 pair of shoes. $400 pair of shoes. Allen Edmonds,
last.
made there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it's going to last. It's going to be there forever, and you're not going to just throw it away. Like, instead of getting, when you get some, Chinese piece of junk from Payless, it doesn't even last a summer.
And see, it's not only that it lasts, it's that you can recondition it, and there's maintenance involved, right? So like a pair of Allen Edmonds, you get them resold, right? Like, so it's not just this rubber soled shoe that just scrapes and falls off.
Right.
And I think we've been so like, and I don't want to get too crazy. This is actually this marketing conversation, like Cole Haan, right? Cole Haan used to make amazing shoes for men and for women. And then they went into this like rubber soled phase after they worked with Nike. I don't know if Nike bought them. I don't have intel on that. But now I don't think they even make a shoe that has a leather sole or a sole that could be resold. So companies have just looked at the profitability of this and just said like, all right, screw it. We're going to do these one and dones, which those are values of companies that I want nothing to do with. And I know there's a lot of people share the same sentiment, right? This is going to come back full circle, and it's only a matter of time. So I implore companies to, all right, try to do as much as you can in America, and agencies too. I always thought it would be great to just be like, we only like do made in America type products. I mean, that would be such a cool positioning statement. I mean, you might fucking starve because it's going to be hard to find clients, but there's going to be another swing, whether it's the pendulum or full circle. And I'm excited to see that happen because there's going to be such fantastic products and things that are just in this country that are helping people here that are like right down the street. I don't know. It makes me excited.
I was listening to CNBC on the drive home yesterday, and the guy, I don't know what the company was, but it was a luxury brand. And Jim Cramer says he says to Jim Cramer and goes, the only place you can make luxury margins is in the luxury market space. And I was like, that makes so much sense. So basically, they're just looking at it and saying, we're gonna make the most luxury product with the most luxurious service, and their margin is going to be bigger than anyone else. Now, they're not going to sell volume.
What constitutes a luxury margin? Just so we're all on the same page.
Oh, just a big margin, large margin.
That's what I'm wondering. So I mean, like, is it like? So are we talking about?
I don't have the specific numbers, but he's basically talking about the volume play versus the large margin, smaller sales play.
Got it. Okay.
And less transactions. Right. Less transactions. So that's a much better space to be in, like, especially for like an agency. I'd much rather have, really valuable clients than 1,000 shitty clients.
In our space, I mean, I think that makes a ton of sense, right? But in the product space, I think it's a little bit different because are you selling
the same thing? You just said it, that Cole's the shoe brand in Wisconsin versus the Nike that's getting churned out.
Yeah, but so when it comes to that's a luxury product, right? The Allen Edmonds, but when it comes to the manufacturing side of things, let's say we take like Bic lighters or something, right? It's like a super disposable thing.
How about Zippos?
Or Zippos. Those actually might be made in the US. I don't even know. But
but
with machines, right? And things, you can still make those here. It's not that we have this, dumbed down labor force that we need to take advantage of. And I'm not saying that somebody sews up, clothing is dumb. But there's more ways for us to leverage technology and also create stuff here that creates a product that's exported that also creates jobs here that we don't take advantage of. It doesn't only have to be a luxury product.
Oh, I agree 100%. But I'm saying for us, like, I want to be in the luxury space.
Oh yeah, no, I completely, I mean, when it comes into I take it to that point too, right? So you have people that are only concerned with price. Like, how often does that outcome, when it's something that's customer bespoke, usually turn out well? It's like, it's hardly average, right? I mean, look at things that the government produces. They shop with price, right? So, I mean, that doesn't always turn out, the way that it should. There's always complaints. You could take like healthcare.gov for an example, right?
Oh my God. That was just corruption right there. $1 billion for a website.
Maybe not exactly. It probably could be, but yeah, and I think that's one of those things where you always find a certain personality type that is just going to be like, nope, price is the only thing that matters. And it's just like, all right, cool. All right. Well, at the end of the day, you probably shouldn't care about that outcome.
Right.
It's just checking a box.
So, I mean, that kind of brings another point that I'd like to talk about that's going on in Oyova this week is what to do when you have a client that disappears on you and then tries to restart a project 6 months later.
Well,
I mean, we've all had those scenarios, right?
Yep.
What do you do?
Well, you fire their fucking asses. No. I think the main thing is, right, so it's trying to work with them. Right now, what we're doing to prevent that, there's a clause that I wrote a while ago that we're now working into our agreements, because it's kind of getting to an agreement conversation as well, which we can put a pin in that for a second. But I think the steps necessary is try to work with them as best as they can, try to find a common ground, all right? But when it's a make wrong, make right situation where they just want to be right, that's a very difficult place to be in. So unless they can see your position and understand it, where we can agree to a path forward, it's not going to work out well.
Would you give a refund?
A full refund?
Let's start with any refund.
Would I give any refund? No, because it's work done and sold. So there's nothing to refund. So if there was something paid for that was up to a certain point that hasn't been used, right? So let's go back to fuel. Then, okay, if there's some fuel left, we can give you some of the fuel left. If it's not, we've already gotten to our destination and there's only fumes. Do you really want the fumes? We can get an eyedropper out and see if this works out.
So, and to add to that analogy, I think the fuel has an expiration date because we're talking about man hours. We have resources and we can't get them back. Like the hour that goes by in January doesn't come back in August if you just decide to start your project again. So these are expiring resources that we allocate to your project. But if you aren't being an active participant in your project and you're not giving us what we need to execute, then those resources are expiring. And so I almost kind of want to think that we need to, as agencies, come up with some kind of empowering message that says, if you don't use them, you're still spending those resources, whether you use them or not, whether we have them in a time report or not, you're still spending fuel because we're losing those man hours, or they're sitting idle and you still should have to pay for those.
And I think that's hoping for and I agree, but I think it's also hoping that, an emotional conversation is actually understood in a logical way because they're making it emotional. That's where I think just having that clause in there, having something that's referential, all right, this is what you agreed to, is a great place to start from. And also it's communicating that expectation, because when it happens to them, they believe they're the exception, right? So if you get ahead of that and you're like, all right, well, we talked about this and maybe there's something that we can do. And I guess the third point to that is it gives an account manager something to follow up on, like, hey, I just want to let you know we're coming up to that date that is in our agreement that if we don't hear from you by this date, it's going to cost you 20% to fire this project back up.
Right. And you can put all those clauses in, and then when it happens, they're going to go, you're out of your mind.
Yeah. Right.
So, I mean, you're still dealing with the emotional. That clause sounds great in a contract. Good luck enforcing it.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's all in the expectation and it's the conversation. I think most things are in life are it's conversations where
I almost think that we do need to have kind of like a decay aspect to it. Like if you fail to get back every month that the project goes in delay, we execute 10 hours of idle hours towards your project, and then so. And once you idle out of all your time, project's done. We're complete.
Did we have a ton of hours
available, or
I think the hours were used. Like we were on the finish line.
Correct, but we're not 100% on the finish line.
Right, but I mean we're pretty close, right?
There's still more work to be done, and there's still available hours. But we didn't decay anything. But I mean, if we did, they'd have been just we can just hand them what we delivered and say thank you very much. But
and I think it's the few and far between, right? So that's what sucks. It's like employees and with clients, you're going to change processes and then implement these things for these one-off 1% situations, and that's a shitty place to be in. But at the same time, you have to protect yourself legally because You could have
Right.
one of these one-off situations. They
Come back.
have new employees that get in there and whatnot that are just going to wreak havoc based on what you've already built.
Right. I don't like changing up anything for the 1%. So, I mean, I'm just, we're approaching this as we're going to flip this into the most loyal customer that we've got. And the team is ready for it. And we're going to double down and do an amazing job. And we're going to flip this customer around. And that's what we do. I mean, it's a challenge. But, most people don't run into this because
we have a poaching clause, right? We have a poaching clause, and that's in there. And we were wise to learn from somebody else's mistake rather than actually even having that happen to us.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
I mean, we're definitely adding the clause. I just think we're going to still run into those challenges. So, yeah, I mean, adding the clause is excellent.
I'd love to see any of our listeners would share their, proposals or their contracts and clauses. I love seeing the way that other people sell, and I don't know if we have the best way. I mean, we got a damn good way. I'll tell you that much. But I would love to see, like, all right, I'm a firm believer of like a one-page contract. If you can fit it all into one page, that builds trust.
Simplicity.
Absolutely. It builds trust. The person's like, okay, cool. I can skim this and whatnot. I'll tell you what, though, we started working with another company. They took one page to a whole nother level. They literally, instead of having it portrait, they flipped it landscape. And it's like, you need a fucking magnifying glass to read this thing. I mean, it's insane how small the type is. I was like, all right, yeah, they took it to a whole nother level. It's legible. What's that?
Yeah. That feels like they're trying to sneak something in there and sneak something past you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like all the way to, so when you go to create it, it's in a Word doc. They were kind of have to send it in a Word doc, right? So I can make some edits. But when you go to export it or print it in a PDF, it's like the margins will not show because it's literally all the way to the borders. Like they just took up all of it. Yeah. If it wasn't, going to be a gnarly account, I'd share it with everybody else, but unfortunately, I don't want to jeopardize that. But I would love to see from our audience. I mean, you can just email those to me or post them in there right now. I'd love to see other people's contracts. And I think that's a good show where we go over what our contract looks like. I think that would help out a lot of agencies.
Sure. But with the disclaimer that we are not lawyers and you should consult your your lawyer for anything, because that's so in DMG.
I mean, I understand. I agree with the caveat, but would we get pulled into court? And granted, I've heard all lawsuits,
but you could damage a relationship. So a question was asked in DMG about how overtime is handled, or I got asked from a member in DMG about how we handle overtime, and we don't do overtime because we don't require overtime, and I want to make sure that no employee feels like they have to work extra. Mm-hmm. But we do offer what we call O projects, which are optional projects that you can take on and do outside of business hours if you'd like to earn more money. And so we do that, and we get to avoid, at least in my head, overtime rules because it's not required, it's not part of your salary, and it's completely optional. And you're, so I don't have a lawyer that has verified that, and I expressed how we do it, but then I made sure I was like, but make sure you pass it by a lawyer and your own state's rules.
Right.
So that I got that idea from a company that I worked for, and I don't know if they had it right or legal. They were a lot bigger than what we are, so I assume that they had legal counsel on this plan. But they used to call these projects direct to developer, and you could work on these things, and they would authorize it through the client, and the client would say, "Yeah, I'll do it," because they want this work done on a certain time. They want to push the data, so they would say, "All right, we could do a direct to developer," and then they said that the payment went directly from the client to the developer, but it didn't. It flowed through the regular payroll. And so I just kind of mimicked that. And I think that was their way of getting around overtime laws while still getting things done on the client's timetable and giving incentive for the employee to earn more money. So I love doing them.
And I think the only time that if the person feels cheated, that's where they're going to make a claim, and that's when it's then tested on whether it's a law or not. I mean, we have a client that's in the employment law space. And the one thing, we've had this client for years, and the one thing we've always said about them is, if you hate your boss, you're going to file, right? So you're going to contact an attorney. And then right now, because of all the layoffs and all the furloughs and all those things, like the leads are through the roof. But the issue is the leads aren't worth anything because there aren't any cases there because everybody's just mad and they're angry, right?
But Florida's a right to work state. You can let somebody go for any reason. The only way the only way is if you have a claim against a protected, like if you fired somebody for race, religion, sexual orientation, things like that. But I mean,
you'd have retaliations and stuff. I'm not an attorney, but yeah, it's not. I mean, you can fire.
But if you just said you had a layoff because of COVID, there's no case there,
right? Yeah, but if you are in a protected, class, you may have a case there, depending on when you were let go versus when others weren't let go, right?
Sure.
But yeah, I agree. I think anybody should consult their attorney. But I mean, and the other thing with contracts too, like I've seen agencies that it's like 30 pages, and like I don't want to sign that. That doesn't make me feel good. It's like, how shitty have you been, and how many times have you been screwed for whatever reason that this is necessary? To me, that is a sales prevention tool.
So another thing that came up this week that I really like, and it's a different perspective than probably what you took it as, but we have a client that has their own legal team, and they reviewed our contract, and they kicked it back, and they're like, you don't have anything that we need in there. And I was like, I love working with clients that have their own legal team because that means they're big.
Right. But
I was like, yes, we've got a huge client on our hand.
Right. It just takes forever, though. Yeah, because it's going back and forth. And I mean, I know I'm a pretty transparent person. If you're the best attorneys in the planet, you're probably not working for, a big company's, legal counsel, internal legal counsel. You're probably at another firm. So when I saw all those, I was like, all right, are we just making, some job security statements here? Is that what this is about? And trying to get this thing pushed through?
Let's play the game.
Yeah, play the game. I love the client. And also having a call with them, they were completely on the same page. They're like, yeah, dude, you have no idea. Like, I got 15 contracts I'm trying to get pressed through right now. And it's as if they're inventing every reason possible. So this was speed.
They got to show they are meant to be there.
Absolutely, man. Like the janitor smoking and throwing his own cigarette butts down in the hallway. Job security.
So we got, about 8 minutes left on this show. We got some viewers. We know you're watching and listening right now. Give us a question. Stump us. Give us one more thing.
All right. So while we're waiting for that, what is the question that stumped you the most? Can you recall how you were completely stumped, and if you went and looked it up later?
On the show?
No, just in general. Like, were you in a meeting where you're like, whoa, I have no idea about that. I got to go look that up.
Oh, I say that all the time. I'm not the expert of lots of things, especially when it comes to specific technology things. I mean, I hire smart people to figure that shit out. I mean, I know general ideas, and I'm very good at technology, mapping it out, but the specifics, man, I just say, and that I think is super key for everyone to learn that lesson is it is okay to say you don't know. And I just saw another meme and another, somebody posted that there's no mistake that you can't learn from, or making a mistake and learning from it is better than faking perfection.
Making a mistake and learning. Yeah, because you have no foundation if you're faking.
And if you see somebody faking that perfection, you usually call out the bullshit, and you're like, all right, I can't work with these people.
And you don't want to surround yourself with the inauthentic and the disingenuous. Yeah, Well, I mean, I think it's because there's no foundation too. That goes back to that, don't fake it till you make it, scenario, because you're not really going to build on anything for the most part.
Right.
All right, you got a Dave by the numbers. Anything to share there?
I'm gonna have to get you to stop asking that and let me volunteer if I have one.
We're going to remove that segment. You know what? This isn't going to be a Siracusa topic, but and this is something I meant to bring up. I think it was like a week or two ago that I saw it. So are you familiar with the guy, the artist, The Weeknd?
Yeah.
So I think the guy does some fantastic music, right? So, but one thing, I mean, he took it to a whole nother level on a marketing perspective, which I absolutely love, which I haven't really seen anybody else do. So on his album cover and the whole theme in there, it's like he gets his ass beat, right? So he's all like bloody and bruised. He's been wearing that makeup out, and essentially where it looks like dude, like what happened to you? And I love that he's leaning into the entire theme in the campaign and everything through and through based on that last album. To me, that is just exemplary salesmanship. That's like living the brand in the way that it just morphed. And when I saw that, I was just like, all right, my hat's off to you. And I got to mention that. It's actually something I've been meaning to mention for quite some time.
Yeah. So our administrative assistant, Shano, that's one of her favorite artists. And I remember she got tickets to go see The Weeknd on a Tuesday. And I'm like, you're going to see The Weeknd on a weekday? But in Jacksonville, we don't get the top artists on weekends. It's always the pass through.
Yeah, so, but I would guarantee that you get more artists at a higher caliber than this market does.
No way.
Oh yeah, because it's traveling down a peninsula, right? So they'll go to Miami, but they're not going to cut across the coast and then go back up. So I would say Jacksonville has got to be in that tour.
From the patterns I see, what I think happens is they come to Jacksonville on like a Tuesday, Wednesday. They do Miami that weekend, and then they probably take some time off, and then they do Orlando, and then they're out of the state. You know,
so, got the House of Blues up in Orlando. Yeah, the Tampa Bay market. Yeah, so it will go to Orlando. But yeah, it's seldom. It's got to be huge to either fill up the Raymond James Stadium or the Ford Amphitheater. Yeah. That's what they call it. I think it's whatever they call it.
But we never get big acts. It's very rare we get big acts. But the cool thing about being in this kind of armpit of Florida location is that sometimes we get really big acts at small venues. So my favorite band, Blues Traveler,
Blues Traveler is your favorite band, really?
One of my favorite top bands.
Yeah, super catchy. Yeah,
I
don't know anything other than their couple of hits.
Oh, they have a ton of albums. I mean, so and most of their stuff doesn't get on the radio. And
is it good stuff though, or is it like Jimmy Buffett's like C&D tracks?
It's like jam band stuff. You know, it's good.
You like Fish and Bread and all that kind of jam band stuff? No. Okay, good, because I can't stand jam bands.
Yeah. No. So either way, there used to be this venue called what is it called? Leonard Skinnerd. What is their
Leonard Skinnerd. It's a band from Jacksonville.
Correct. And Freebird. Okay, so the venue was called Freebird because it was owned by the ex-wife of the lead singer of Leonard Skinnerd.
The real one, Van Zandt?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
So, but they got divorced a long time ago. So she was in here in Jacksonville. So she owned this place that was right at the downtown beach called Freebird Live, and it probably held 200 people, maybe
That's
200.
Yeah.
And I got to see Blues Traveler there.
Wow.
I mean, you could literally touch the dude. You're that close. Or you could go upstairs and you're like 10 feet away. And it was the most amazing.
Was he wearing the overalls?
Was he?
Yeah, didn't he wear overalls and isn't that his shtick?
Well, he was still a really big dude back then. I mean, he had the stomach stapling and got real skinny. I think he almost died because of it.
Oh, I didn't know that. But yeah, doesn't he always wear overalls? Like that's part of his thing? He always kind of looks like a farmer?
I think that was just one of his videos.
Okay, like that's my memory of Blues Traveler. Huh.
But I got to see him so close. It was such an intimate venue, and wow. So to be able to get that, and that was 8 years ago when they were way more popular than they are today. I mean, that was much closer to their Hook days. So
interesting. All right. Yeah. No. And so doing music, anytime we did, I don't know what it was or maybe it's mainly playing in Florida. There was always somebody in the audience that would yell, "Freebird!"
Right.
We're not taking, requests.
That's the thing. You hear it all the time.
Yeah.
In the South. No. Another note that I'll tell you about your neck of the woods. Clearwater has probably the best blues
jazz fest.
The blues and jazz fest I've ever been to.
So Detroit has an awesome one too.
Yeah.
Detroit.
A lot of free space in Detroit.
What's that?
A lot of free space.
A lot of blues in Detroit too.
Oh yeah. Anything that comes down the Mississippi.
Yeah. All right. Get some good comments in there. Some weekend fans. Your wife chimed in based on the restaurant, or not the venue. You know what? There was one, Holland. You actually lived in the area here, and I don't know if you. It was a rock venue. We used to play there all the time. It was called the Brass Mug. Did you ever go to that when he was here? It's no longer here.
No, dude, I was like 5 to 10 when I lived in Brandon.
Yeah, I guess your parents weren't dirt rockers. Well, that's good. So it shows a lot about your childhood. All right. Other than that, I think this is a wrap for today. Want to thank you, buddy, for joining me on this journey, our journey, having a Free Talk Friday. And everybody, if you want to join, go ahead and shoot me an email, Jon@digitalmastermind.com. That's Jon. And I hope that you have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the rest of your 9/11. And thank you so much for watching and listening.